right, y'all. This is another episode of the Texas Garden Guy Show, and I've got a spectacular guest with me today. They have him and his family have been an inspiration for me starting my gardening and farming and all that stuff, the channel, and so it is an honor to have him on.
Oh
And
man,
I want to introduce Jason from Cog Hill Farm.
how you doing, man?
Oh, doing good, dude.
Yeah,
Well,
go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, go ahead and introduce yourself. I know you
Yeah,
are from Alabama, Roll Tide.
that's right. Jason, Brooke, and Mary Carl is my family. We are from Alabama. Just recently moved from our old farm 2 years ago. We have been in that area since I was born,
Wow.
and made the leap. We wanted some more room. Made the leap to a bigger farm. Basically, our other farm was roughly 7 acres, but a lot of people don't know this about the old farm was that farm was actually in a neighborhood. It didn't look like it because of where the location was, but it was really in a neighborhood. We had houses beside us, we had houses behind us. There was a school, a big
Wow.
elementary and middle school behind us, but we had restrictions on some of that land. So, we really only had like 2 acres or something that we could actually farm on.
It was like a narrow strip, right? It was like a
It was
narrow.
really skinny. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
skinny and long. Yep, exactly. Yeah, it looked way bigger on film than it did in person.
Well, I remember when I first saw y'all's channel. I was working a job where same job but different spot, and I was working 7 days on and 7 days off, and so I would have
Wow.
these 7 days off, and I was already doing the gardening and everything in my backyard. I had all the cameras and stuff, and I was like, well, why don't I start, doing what these guys are doing? Because I started following guys like you, Justin Rhodes, Sow the
Yeah.
Land, Stony Ridge Farms. Y'all were like my first introduction, to like homesteading and, doing a lot of this gardening and just y'all's life, exposing
Right.
your entire life. And so, yeah, thank you for putting you and your family out there and like inspiring
Yeah.
people like me. And I know there's others, that so can we go back and start off
Sure.
talking? I went back in time and watched some of your older videos and saw some of your lives, and
Yeah.
you explained how y'all started out before y'all were even at the little Cog Hill.
Yeah.
Explain, because you were kind of in my situation where you were kind of in the city trying to
Yes.
make it work in small spaces. Let people know like what how y'all started out.
Absolutely. I bought a house, and when I moved, I was in my early 20s, bought a house. Me and Brooke were dating. We dated like 7 years before we got married, and we dated my senior year, so we've been together forever.
That's crazy.
But she was a city girl, and I was lived in the country in rural Alabama.
You'd never be able to tell she's a city girl. There's no way.
No, not at all. Absolutely not.
No, not at all, man.
The crazy thing, she was so against not living in the city. But she was like, what if somebody gets hurt and we need an ambulance? What if, she's just, that's where she was born. And I say city, Selma's got like 20,000 people in it. It's not like a huge city,
Right.
but she was so against it. So I bought a little house in the city, just a little neighborhood. I don't even know how big my lot was. It was small.
It's probably close to what mine is, I bet. Like
And this is when I bought my house and everything. This is right when HGTV just came out.
okay.
I mean, this was early stages. Paul James, the gardening guy, had a
Yeah.
show. There was a guy called, I think his name was Gary Allen, I think was his name, and he
The
was a
singer?
landscape. No, he was a landscaper, and I think that's his name. But he was a landscaper, and it was just him landscaping. There was no fluff. He wasn't like Paul James, who I love, who was a huge inspiration for me
Right.
growing up, was Paul James, the gardening guy. But so was this guy too. And I got obsessed with gardening and landscaping, which I had no background in whatsoever. My
Me
parents
either.
didn't care
Yeah.
about gardening. My
Yeah.
parents didn't care about landscaping. Nobody was a farmer, nothing. But I got the bug and I was just obsessed. So I turned my little old house, it was almost in a cul-de-sac almost, into this. It just, I mean, it started out was the front yard, and I won't forget, I bought white impatiens. I had two huge oak trees in the front, and I bought like several flats of white impatiens and just planted them around the oak trees. And they did wonderful, and they were just gorgeous. So that led into flower boxes and planters and all the windows, and then the backyard, and it just went like level 10. My backyard back there started out had just a little goldfish pond, and that goldfish pond into going like 3 hours buying these boulders and creating waterfalls to then creating a stream in the backyard, then creating a bridge, and then three more goldfish ponds, and it was unreal. It really was beautiful back
It
there.
sounds like a Japanese garden.
I mean, it kind of was. It was kind of like a hodgepodge of everything. It was like Victorian style and cottage and Japanese, and I was just plants go on sale. I would just buy everything I could and not worry about where I was going to put them, and then figure out where I was going to put them.
Was it because did you have a lot of free time? Because
No, no, I
you
was
admit
working. Yeah, I was
you,
working an 8 to 5 job, a normal job. Had the weekends off though,
yeah.
and we found a lady that had a nursery that was about an hour away from us, and she had a nursery that was basically in her front and side yard. She lived in like a double wide trailer. It was all right there. It was super rural. It was down a dirt road. Hardly anybody that you know knew of her, but she basically sold wholesale to the public. I
Oh,
could
cool.
buy a 1 gallon plant for $2 or $3. I could buy a 5 gallon plant from her for like $5
Yeah.
compared to the nurseries where they were 15 and $20. She was a huge inspiration and a huge part of why we got so addicted to it because we could go over there and $100 would buy you like 20 plants.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially when you start building like a relationship with your nursery people.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know,
She was
like
awesome.
I've got my buddy Jorge, and like I go over there at least once or twice a month. I got to where I started selling my fig trees at
Oh
his
wow.
nursery, and actually, a lot of times, I take him plants too when I go over there. You know,
That's awesome.
when you start building relationships like with
Yep.
your local nursery people,
You're right.
it's like hey, I'll bring you a couple of these plants, and you'll trade me this for that, and I just take it. You're good.
Yeah,
It's
that's what she would do with us. She would call us and say, "Hey, look, these plants are not selling. Um, um, y'all come get them."
yeah,
And it may be 40 plants. And we were just it was just unreal. But then what happened was is that that neighborhood was just a really super nice neighborhood. It was real quiet. Um, but there were a lot of older people in it.
uh,
And then I think these older people's family didn't live here anymore. So the lady across the street passed away. And then her house went for sale. Of course, it looked like 1976 or
yeah.
whatever. And so it went up for sale, and it went for sale fairly cheap. So what started happening was is these renters were, or whatever you want to call them, landlord.
Yeah.
I don't know what the term is for, but they would come by them and do nothing to them, and it just ended up just bringing the value down to the neighborhood. And I could
Yeah.
see what was fixing to happen was that this very quiet, beautiful neighborhood started. There was the next door neighbor of mine, he moved, and then a young, like really young person moved next door, and they were having parties every
Oh
single
yeah.
night.
Oh yeah.
So that kind of thing was fixing to start happening. So this beautiful, quiet neighborhood, I could see the handwriting on the wall. And
Yeah.
so we put our house up for sale, and we were thinking, all right, it's gonna take a year to sell the house. That'll give us time to find something. And like 2 weeks after we put it up for sale, it sold like that. And I know what it was, the curve appeal that sold it. That's
Yeah.
exactly what sold this house was the curve appeal.
Right.
And it sold to a younger couple, and she was in real estate, and I can't to this day I can't believe she bought that house and not foreseeing what was fixing to happen to this neighborhood in the next five,
Yeah.
6 years.
Have you
And
driven back by there to see
oh
how
yeah, matter of fact, that house actually sold again last week. And so I went and looked at the pictures, and oh my gracious.
they let it go, huh?
Ooh, it was terrible. It was absolutely. You can see pieces of the bridges we had built, and they were like
Oh
half still
man.
standing. It was horrible,
Yeah,
absolutely horrible.
yeah, I'm kind of struggling that with myself, because we're in a subdivision and we don't plan on
Hmm.
being here forever, and so that's why all my stuff is like in containers,
Yes,
because I want to take it with me when I eventually move to a couple of
absolutely.
acres. But like I'm so tempted to do certain things,
Yep,
but I don't know if it's gonna increase the value or if it's going to make it worse. Am I going to have to dig that up when I leave? I mean,
yep,
it's kind of just a roll of the dice, and then you kind of have to just wash your hands of it. Like whatever happens to this stuff when I'm gone after it's theirs, you kind of just have to
exactly.
let it go. You can't hold it against them.
It was really tough for us the first couple of years. I mean, we would drive by it all the time, and yeah, it was really tough. Now we did the only thing that I remember us taking were hydrangeas.
Hmm.
I had gotten where I loved hydrangeas, and so I took hydrangeas away, and we moved those to the new place. The new place is kind of crazy, um, because we were looking for land because we wanted to build a house, and we kind of wanted to do it all ourselves, and so we couldn't find any land. Land was crazy expensive. Out of the blue, my mom calls me and says, "Hey, I think I have 5 acres that I didn't even know I owned." And I'm like, "How is that possible? How is it possible that you have 5 acres near near your location now that you had
Right.
no idea you owned?" Well, we had an old family cemetery that dated back to the 1700s that we all knew
Wow.
about because, long story short, my great, 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 I don't know how many greats grandfather was Andrew Jackson's surgeon. And
Wow.
he was the surgeon of the Battle of Horseshoe Bend. And for his services, they gave him Oodles of property, which is now called Valley Grande, Alabama, which is huge. But over the
Okay.
years and back taxes and the Great Depression, my family kind of lost it all, but just a little bit where my mom and dad live now, and this spot where the cemetery's on.
Okay.
Well, my grandmother passed away. My mama doesn't remember any paperwork. She don't remember getting anything. She don't remember signing anything. She don't remember seeing anything in a will. But Valley Grande was not a city, it was just an area called Valley Grande. And then you had Selma, which was the closest city that kind of butted up. They kind of touched each other.
Hmm.
And the rumor was is that Selma was going to try to incorporate some of Valley Grande and make Selma bigger. And then the people at Valley Grande were like, "Oh, no, you're not."
Yeah.
So they incorporated Valley Grande and turned it into a city. And what happened was when that happened, you had to sign off on the property that you owned. Well, my mom's had to sign off on this property that she had no idea she owned, and it was 5 acres. Why she didn't know she owned it was because my grandmother turned the 5 acres into a cemetery, but the cemetery was only a third of that
Okay.
because you don't pay taxes on the
On a
cemetery in
cemetery.
Alabama.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's what she did. So my mama doesn't remember any paperwork or anything on this thing. So we had to go back and change it back to where it originally was. And that's how we got our property. That was actually on Cog Hill Road, and that was why our name became Cog Hill Farm. I
Oh.
wanted my biggest dream was to start a CSA, to grow meat chickens, to grow pigs. I wanted to be a working farm. That was my dream way before YouTube and social media started.
Okay.
And that's why I called it Cog Hill Farm,
Right.
was because we were trying to be an actual working farm. If
And
I always
it kind of turned into a petting zoo more than
Oh,
anything.
it is now, yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the biggest tips I'd give people now is give me some tips on social media. I said, don't ever name it after the street you live on.
Oh my God! Did anybody ever show up?
At our old farm, we really couldn't tell because it was so wooded and
Hmm.
you really couldn't see. And the way the terrain was, because it was so hilly,
Yeah, y'all were all the way at the top, right?
yes, it went up. Our house was at the top, then it went down, and then went way back up again, and it was all woods for the
Okay.
most part. Oh, the only reason that we had any clear area in that property was because of Hurricane Ivan. When it came through, It was like a spin up tornado hit my little property and took out oak trees that 5 men could get their arm around.
Oh wow. And
Yep.
is that when y'all already had it? Y'all already owned it,
We
or?
were we were building.
Oh
We were
wow.
building it. Yeah, we had like 4 trees that just barely missed the house.
Wow.
Yeah, because when we first recently, we wanted to look like a little cabin in the woods, which it kind of still did, but
Yeah.
it was just full of just huge mature oak trees in there. There was no clear space whatsoever. There was no sunlight. It was all shade.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
and I mean, I remember seeing y'all's place for the first time. Your videos have a distinct signature. You know, you have like a good routine that you always go through. Like, you know, when you see a Cog Hill video, the first 5 minutes you're gonna see Jason, Mary Carl, Miss Cog Hill are out there feeding the chickens, feeding the
Right.
goats, and then you kind of transition into doing a little bit of extra. You know, you always
Right.
have so there's people that come to watch your videos that might just watch you feed the chickens and feed the
Yeah.
goats.
All
And
right.
and then there's people that hang around and want to
Yeah.
see what projects y'all got
Yep.
going on. And
Yep.
that's such a unique formula. And I think that's why it really works for y'all because, you know, you have the kids who, you know, I'm sure a big part of y'all's audience are kids that like seeing the chickens, the goats, the
Yes.
pigs, the emus. And then you got guys like me who are like DIYers. You know, they like to do like the woodworking,
Yep.
the carpentry, the fence building. They stick around till the end. Sometimes I will skip through a little bit and say, "Hey, what do they got going on? What are they building today?" You know,
Yes.
especially when y'all are building on the barn and stuff. You know,
Right.
like I was like, "This is so cool." I mean, and so y'all, how long were y'all at the Little Cog Hill?
We were there for 17, 18 years.
Is that long?
Yeah, we were there for a while. We really were. Um, we
Wow.
were there, and when the land got cleared out and all that happened, then that's when I started wanting to farm, become a farmer. We had spots for a garden then, and that's kind of what we did. And what happened was that we started. YouTube came about before the meat chicken business, but right when we started meat chickens. Um, I had always been a filmmaker. When I was a kid, the VHS cameras, I would make videos, I would edit on videos. I had 2 VCRs. I've always done that. I've always edited. I've always been big into filmmaking. It's just something that I was so passionate about as a kid and in my teens. And then it kind of went away because I didn't really have anywhere to do it. And then YouTube came along, and I looked at YouTube like most people did back in 7, 8 years ago and before, is to how-to videos.
Yeah.
I think that's what YouTube kind of was how-to videos. And then I don't know how I saw him. I guess YouTube was pushing him. But when Casey Neistat hit, that turned my world upside down.
He was like the first blogger, right? He was like he was like a blog
He was. I
or a
think there were
vlog.
people before him,
Yeah.
but he turned it into a movie.
Yeah.
His videos are like watching a movie, and I was just blown away.
Yeah.
So he inspired me to start the YouTube channel, and then Justin Rhodes came right about shortly after Casey
He
did.
was pretty early on, huh?
He
Justin
was
was.
really early on. To me, the two guys that jumped on it in this niche were Wrangle Star and Justin
I
Rhodes.
freaking love Wrangler Star, man. I used to watch Wrangler Star's videos like all night long. Like,
He was him, and I think he may even before Justin.
I think so.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they were like that first wave. I think I came in. I was like, I wasn't the big second wave, but I was close to right after that second wave. I was like that early third or late second wave that came in.
I, I would say you were probably in between Justin Rhodes and like Sow the Land. Like
I came when Sow the Land. I was, see, Daniel at Armstead was about a
yes.
year before me, and then you had Doug and Stacy. Then you had Appalachian Homestead, Keeping It Dutch.
That's the one. Yep.
There's some, they're not there anymore. There was a second wave that came in right after Justin did,
The
and then I was
Crockers.
yeah, and there was several channels there, and but all of them were they kind of were all the same. They were kind of like pre-Casey, in my opinion. There
Hmm.
wasn't that editing like Casey did. And to me, that's where I came in, and I was so much different than everybody else. And but it didn't click with the people in this niche, the audience in this niche, which I couldn't understand because it would take me like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours to edit a 10-minute video. And I had buddies like Daniel taking him an hour and a half, and he's getting 3 times the views as I'm getting. And I could not figure it out. I could not figure it out. So
That's exactly how it goes. That's
oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
That's why I transitioned to Instagram and TikTok because I wasn't, I'm a little young, I'm a little younger. I wasn't getting that instant gratification, so
Oh yeah.
yeah, I was spending all day filming, all evening editing, post a
Yes.
video, and get
Yes.
100 views. And
Yep.
you tell yourself, you're like, oh, just keep swimming, it's
Just keep
gonna come.
swimming.
And then like 6 months go down the road, and it's like, oh. And then my buddy told me about TikTok and Instagram. He's like, hey man, just keep doing the same things you're doing, make a shorter version. And that like took off so fast.
Isn't that
And
crazy?
it is so wild.
Because you found your audience.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
happened. So short form video wasn't around in the early years where I was.
The
So
earliest was like
base
Vine, right? It was like Vine was
Vine,
like,
and I never did Vine.
yeah.
Uh, so I was doing. My goal was to make the video 6 minutes or less. That was basically my goal because back then when everything YouTube was is short form, jump cuts, kind of like TikTok and
Yep.
Instagram is now. That was
Yep.
early YouTube, and so that's what I was trying to do. And and then I would look at my analytics and I would be like 100% was like 15% was this age group, 15% was this age group, 15, 15, 15, 15. And I was like, I'm appealing to everybody.
Hmm.
But that was a huge mistake that I was making because I did not know who wanted to watch my videos.
Right.
It wasn't 18 and younger. They didn't care about my videos. It was the older people that wanted to watch my videos.
That's who's watching my videos.
It took me 5 years to figure that out. Five
Wow.
years. Year five, this was pre-COVID. This was right before, I want to say, I don't know, 6 months to a year before COVID hit, somewhere in there. I told Brooke before, and this is funny because Brooke hated me doing it early on. She hated. She thought I was crazy.
I know the feeling.
You're
I know the
you're
feeling.
crazy. She wouldn't be in the videos. She thought I was crazy. She would get mad about it.
Yep.
I'll say mad. She would get frustrated because we would try to do something, and as you know, and especially early on when you don't have a clue as to what you're doing, a 30-minute project would take 3 hours because
Yep.
you're moving the camera, you're filming, you're checking it, whatever. And I understand her frustration, but she stuck it out. She stuck it
Yep.
out, and eventually she came around. And about I want to say about year four is when she really became a character in the show.
Right.
My daughter was always a character and always wanted to be until now. When Mary
Right.
Carl turned 12, she started not wanting to be on the camera anymore. Which
Really?
yes, and if you notice now, she's never in any of the videos. So
Right.
when adolescence hits with her, she starts shying away from the camera and don't want to be in the video and don't want nobody to know who she is now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a big. She's been like but Brooke's been the opposite. Mary Carl was at the top, wanted to be in the videos, and then now she don't want to, and Brooke didn't want to be in the videos, and now
She's
Brooke's a
got her own
huge
channel.
part, got her own channel now,
Yeah. Yeah.
huge part of what we do. But on year five, Brooke and Mary Carl, we were really doing the family thing, and I don't know why. Why I tell you, it was. I talked to Daniel Arms a lot. Me and him became really, really good friends, and he told me one day he said I would quit if it took me as long as it takes you to edit a video. I would quit, and I was like, but I love editing. I do.
Yeah. Me too.
I absolutely. I love filmmaking. I love the camera angles. I love changing up. I love the music. I love. Oh, and I study it. When I watch a movie, I'm watching I count how many seconds there
Yep.
is in between cuts,
Yep.
why they're cutting, what's the establishing shot.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, that's because I'm a weirdo. That's what I'm thinking. And
Yeah.
he doesn't think like that. But that kind of stuck with me. And I told Brooke one day, I said, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to make a next video. I'm not going to do any jump cuts. I'm not going to do any jump cuts. And I'm going to leave the and ums in there. And I'm going to make this a slower video and I'm going to make it a
Make it
longer
raw.
video.
It's raw video.
Yes, or feel like it's raw.
Right.
So I did that. That video was like 28 minutes long. At that time, I was probably averaging around 25 to 30,000 views per video. I would get lucky if I hit 40 or 50,000. And to this day, I've never had a viral video. As many videos as I've put out, as many of the crazy, silly dancing videos I've put out, I've never had one single viral video. And all my buddies have had tons
Yeah.
of them.
It doesn't matter. It's honestly better to have what you have
I agree.
because it's consistency. And because I've seen it on Instagram and TikTok. When you get a viral video, I've had videos hit 6 million views, on TikTok
Wow.
or Instagram. It trickles down your coverage on your newer videos.
Yeah.
And it's nice, but I mean, it really kind of hurts you in the long run because people aren't exactly discovering the new stuff.
And I think people will fall in that trap as that one hits, and then they get that high and that rush, and then the next one does it.
You're chasing the dragon. You're chasing the dragon.
Chasing it. They are chasing it, and it's way better to build that community.
Yes.
Versus that viral video, at least in my opinion, and that's what we've done.
Yeah.
So that video was totally different. And I had to go back and look, but I think that video hit 175,000 views, and it was big for me. I was like, oh my gracious. So, and I'm not an analytics guy. I hate analytics. I don't read them. I really don't. But I went back and looked, and that's when I figured out who my audience was. Like 70% were 55 years old and older that watched that video.
Yep.
70-30. It was 70% women, 30% men. And so a light bulb went off. And so I was like, well, these are who want to watch my videos. These are the people that I think want to watch. So from that point forward, I changed the way I did my videos. I got rid of jump cuts. I do a lot slower videos. I make longer videos. And it changed everything at that point.
Oh,
it really did. Our channel just went crazy at that point. And then COVID hit. And then I think you may even saw this. I mean, everybody got scared. They wanted to know how to grow their own food. They wanted to know how to garden. And everybody in this niche that was semi-established just blew up.
Yeah.
And this niche, matter of fact, at one time may have been the biggest niche on YouTube at one time.
Is that a dog in the background?
Yeah. I thought she was swinging a toy. I thought she was fixing to hit my light.
my German Shepherd's been asleep underneath me the entire time. I was wondering. I was like, is the microphone going to pick up his snoring or not?
So we were on the rise. We were on the big rise, and the numbers started coming in, and I was like, oh my gracious. And I've been doing this for 5 years. My job, I was there for 22 years. That was family owned. It was a car dealership. I was in charge of the back end of the dealership. I was the parts and service director. The owner never bothered me whatsoever. As long as I was doing a great job, it was just whatever I wanted to do.
Right.
It was so laid back. It was a great environment. But then I started seeing, I was like, if this becomes a point that I may have to do something different here.
Yeah.
And eventually it did. And I had to sit down and talk with him. And I was like, look, this is what's happening right now. And what happened is that it was actually costing me money to go to my regular job.
Yeah. Yep.
And I was showing him the numbers and stuff, and he was like, you got to quit. You there's no way you can stay here.
Yeah.
And so I took the leap of faith, not knowing how much longer this was going to last and all this, but it hasn't died down. And that was Oh gosh, we're getting close to 3 years now.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
and it's still climbing. We're still climbing.
and y'all been at the new property for over 2 years now, right? Has it been
Yeah, we've been
over?
here over 2 years. Yep,
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually predicting another boom is coming,
I
not because
agree.
not because of a new pandemic, but because the Writers Guild and the Screen Actors Guild have been on
Yep,
strike,
yep.
and so my wife was asking me about that. She goes, "Why are you making so much more content?" And I told her I was like, "We're about to have a absence of content on television,
I
and I
agree.
and I think they are really making a mistake doing this stuff because they're going to let us take over. These people, content creators on YouTube that aren't part of any like guild or union or anything.
Yeah.
We're out here having a great time doing what we love,
Yep.
and people are going to be looking for content, and they're going to come to YouTube and find it from
I
people
agree.
who actually enjoy loving doing what they do, like we do.
I absolutely agree. And plus everything's gotten so saturated now too on
Yes.
the streaming platforms now. It's not like it used to be.
Right. And I'm sure you get a lot of like emails and messages from like younger content creators like me. I get people messaging me, and I always tell people, there's plenty of room for everybody. I know some people get competitive and like doing the same videos as me. I mean, I can only make so much content. There's
Right.
everybody's got 24 hours in a day.
Right.
There's plenty of room for everybody to be doing, gardening content, farming content. So I try to encourage people, just like you helped me out when we were talking about, like, doing more Facebook content.
Yes.
I'm about to hit 120,000 on Facebook.
That's
It's
crazy.
it's been crazy, and I've just been focusing more on Facebook. And like you were saying, the older
That older.
audience, they have been loving it. Facebook has been blowing up.
And here's what's awesome about them is that they are extremely loyal. They are so loyal. Um, Once you get that community built, they will watch everything you do. Um, Also, I call it selling out your audience, or that's just what I call it. But if you notice me, I don't do a ton, if any, sponsor ads anymore. I used to
Mhm.
do them early on, but I stopped doing sponsors. Now I do have companies that I work with that are, but it's not like a paid advertising, like,
Correct. Yeah.
And if I do anything, I'm very picky who we work with now. Everybody we work with are family owned, small companies. But I'm extremely picky, but it has something to do with what we're doing,
Well,
anyways.
and your endorsement means something.
Right, exactly right. So, but what I found out is if I that when we really want to sell something, like our coffee,
Mhm.
so we got
Which
our
is
own coffee
delicious,
brand.
by the way.
Thank you.
Go get some Cog Hill coffee. Absolutely, it is delicious. I've been drinking it
Our
at work.
our fans will support us because I'm not hammering them with constant
Right.
advertising all the time. And that's just the way I do it. And I got friends that do it other ways, and I completely understand why they do it. It's a lot. It's a lot
Oh,
of money involved sometimes, and I know that can be life changing, and that can help your family and all that. So there's several ways to do it, several ways to do it. But building that community, they're they are extremely loyal.
absolutely. Yeah, you're probably a lot like me because if I get a bunch of emails and messages about people sending me stuff, I can only imagine how many you get.
Oh yeah, it's
Uh,
crazy.
so if it's something like out of the blue, like I would never use, I say no, no, thank
Yeah,
you, but I'm good. If it's something that I would use, like my greenhouse, I worked a
yeah.
deal with Shelter Logic for my greenhouse. I did an assembly video. I was gonna have to buy a greenhouse
That's
anyway.
anyways. Yep.
Yeah. And so we just worked out a deal where I did an assembly video for him. Boom. And stuff like I'm more product for review.
Right.
If it's something I'm gonna use or have to buy anyway, I'll do that. But
Right.
I don't typically do a lot of, hey, pay this much to do that. I don't really like that too much.
Right.
It feels disingenuous. But I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I mean, I hate doing it, but
Oh yeah,
sometimes, yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I do too. I had one company. There was a nice company, and it was one of these food services, a monthly subscription to a
yeah,
food product, and it was a great product, but they kept changing kind of the way they were doing things, and what I couldn't what. you'd have to do an ad for them.
Hmm.
Then you have to send it in before the video, and then they have to approve it or they'll decline it, and then they'll decline it. So you have to go back and change it. And I got tired of that. I don't know. I just didn't
Yeah,
like it.
I've been through that where you have to
Yeah.
submit it through a Dropbox. They have to send it to the board, and then it's like three. I'm
Yeah.
usually like with. I'm getting back into doing more long form with the podcast. I'm doing some assembly videos, some tool reviews, stuff like that.
Are you
But
doing
most
anything on YouTube?
Yeah, I've been posting the
Okay.
podcast, and I've been it's mostly been the podcast. I've been
Gotcha.
doing a Texas Garden Guy plant of the week, and then I've also been doing some like tool reviews as
Okay.
well. So, but most of my uh, content goes on Instagram and TikTok. It's
I
just
got you.
I'm starting to build my setup because I had given up on YouTube. I was like, oh, there's not enough room for me. No one's watching my videos.
Right.
And when you're getting love somewhere else, well, hey, why am I
Oh yeah.
gonna go? Why am I gonna go back here? But
Are you
I
doing
do.
shorts? Are you doing shorts?
Yeah. So when I post when I record a video, it goes up as a short, it goes up as a reel, it goes up as
Gotcha.
a TikTok, it goes up everywhere, pretty much
Okay.
all at the same
So
time.
you're just recycling it.
Well, I'm not. Oh, well, I'm not. Well, I don't recycle old videos, but I'm a
That one
post.
video you can post in three or four
Yes,
platforms. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. And so, and that way, wherever you're at, about 7 o'clock every night, you're going to see a video that I post.
Awesome.
It's kind of like that. But I do enjoy doing the long form stuff. I do enjoy the editing process, like you were saying. It's just finding that niche,
Yeah.
and getting your audience down. And with the podcast and stuff, the podcasts I've been doing, uh, I think it's really been nice, just kind of talking to some of my gardening friends like you, and getting some more people on, and kind of I was surprised, people really want to know some of the stories like behind the content creators like you.
Oh yeah.
Like where did Peaches come from? Did she just
Yeah.
show up? Did she just show up one day? Like where did Peaches come from?
Peaches is 8 years old now, so she's a year older than the YouTube channel.
Oh wow! And this is a Siamese potbelly pig,
This is a Vietnamese potbelly
Vietnamese.
pig.
Okay.
And she came about. We had a friend that where we lived in Valley Grande or close to Selma, and she was like a friend for years. She was like a mentor for us. So we called her the goat lady early on because she had a bunch of goats.
She's a
She
goat
was real.
hoarder.
She was. They had a lot of property. They were real big into goats, and they had a little bit of animals, of a little bit of everything. But she was the goat lady. But then she got into other animals. It just kind of grew as goats, and then she had alpacas. No, take that
Oh
back. She had
wow!
llamas. She had llamas, and then she had horses, and then she added pigs, and then she had turkeys, chickens. She had like everything, and that's where we got
Sounds
original.
familiar.
Yeah, that's where we got original from. But she had like three of these little baby pigs that she was bottle feeding, and they were like two like solid black ones or black and white ones, and then there was Peaches who was that pink and black. And I could hold her in the palm of my hand, and I was
Y'all
like,
got her when
oh
she
my
was
God.
that small?
Yeah. And I was like,
Oh man.
good gracious, this thing is just adorable. And for some reason, she kind of latched on to me. And so we went over there a lot. I'd go over there and I would feed Peaches the bottle, whatever, and then she just kind of just was latched on to me. And the lady asked me, did I want her? I was like, no, we really don't need any more animals. Um, and then I didn't know anything about pigs. I was scared, and then I told Brooke one day, I said, if she offers it to me again, we may get her. And out of the blue, matter of fact, I don't think I was there. She told Brooke that she wanted to give me the pig, and wasn't Peaches wasn't her name at the time. And Brooke went and got her and brought her home, and then I came home and there was Peaches, and Peaches was a house pig for a long time. She lived in the house for, I mean, when she was big, I mean, she lived in the house for a long time. But she went outside one day.
That's what I was gonna ask, is
Yeah.
because I know people do scams sometimes when they say it's a mini pig,
Oh my
but You've heard
Gosh.
of that, right? People do scams. They say, "Oh, it's these
And
mini pigs," and they turn out being like Peaches.
they're all like that. And we've tried to tell people that all the time. There's no such thing as a micro pig or a mini pig. They're the smallest pig breeds are the coonies
Mhm.
and Peaches. Unless there's
Yeah.
something out there I don't know about it, but if you Google it, that's what's going to come up. And we got two coonies now, and that's
Yeah.
Loretta and Gus, and you see how big they are.
Yeah, they
He
get
probably
big.
weighs 150, 200 pounds. Peaches probably weighs about that much as well.
I like those coonies. They're so
Oh,
cool.
they're awesome. They're
Yeah.
so awesome. But Peaches went outside one day and she wouldn't come back in. She was done. She wouldn't come back in. And so
Yeah.
he's like, okay, she wants to be outside. We let her outside.
As Joel
And
Salatin would say, let the pigginess of the pig thrive.
yeah,
Like,
exactly
she wants
right.
to be outside.
She wanted to be outside. And we had her by herself forever. And she never, we always said she never acted like a pig. She doesn't like mud. She doesn't like to be squirted off with the water
Really?
hose. No, she never liked a waller. None of that. She slept on a dog bed. I
I
mean,
saw
she,
that bed that she always slept
yes,
on. How many times? How many of those have you bought? Like,
bunch. So we ended up buying a cot that's called a coolaroo, and you could
yeah.
swap the cover off. So we would just buy
Mhm.
like six covers because she'd eventually wear them out. You could go out there and she's just laying on the ground because the hole and the cot's around her. And I guess in her mind, she's sleeping on the bed. I don't know. So we had a friend of ours build us one that he made out of rigid galvanized conduit.
Oh, nice.
And it was, I mean, and she's never torn that one up. Matter of fact, we
Oh,
still
wow.
have it. We got it put up because once we moved her over here, she
Yeah.
didn't want to be on the bed.
Yeah.
She didn't like it. So, but that's how Peaches became about. And of course, when the YouTube channel started, I started making the animals a character in the show. And
Absolutely.
and so she was the main one. I mean, I used to do so much with her. You know, we did the Super Bowl prediction every year.
Every year she picks. So
Yeah,
she's pretty accurate.
she's only
She
missed one Super Bowl.
I think she picked the Eagles this year. This year she picked the
I
Chiefs.
don't know.
She picked the Eagles this
She
year.
picked the Eagles this year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she did. She did. Yeah.
she picked
I
the Eagles this year.
I remember seeing that. I was like, oh, she was wrong.
As a matter of fact, now that I think about it, the two she's missed were the Eagles. The she picked the Patriots over the Eagles because
Oh,
those Eagle fans are rough. Boy, they came after her when the Eagles won.
I'm a Cowboys fan, so I'm not an Eagles fan whatsoever.
So then when she picked the Eagles to win, they were just so ecstatic. So I mean, they were so happy that she picked them to win. Yeah, it's we used to do that, and I still do it now, but I just don't make it a full video. See, that's one
Right.
of the videos I thought would have went viral. I thought that was a viral video. It was the first one I did. I don't know. It was so hard. I used to save stuff. We found a TV that was missing. Old TV was missing the tube,
Uh-huh.
and I said on the side of the road one day, I said I might need that for a video, and I did. I used it for that video, the first one. I put it there. I had a suit and tie on, and I acted like I was a TV reporter, and then we just went over to Peaches, and of course Peaches would walk in, and I'd have the thing set up, and it never goes as planned. It hardly ever goes
No.
as I'll get in so much trouble because I baited her to which one to pick. And this last one, I got in trouble because I always take an apple and I cut it. And I
Hmm.
put an apple under one piece of paper and an apple under the other piece of paper,
Right.
and that leads her to where to go. And what happened is that the piece of paper will move and people can see the apple and the other, and so that's why she picked that one because and
People get so
and
upset.
so they get so upset and so serious about it, and I'm like, it's just a
Oh.
joke. It's just a
Oh my
joke. It's
goodness.
just chill out. It's just a joke. It's just my 8-year-old potbelly pig
Yeah.
being
Oh, and
silly.
she's 8 years old now.
She's 8. Yeah,
Wow.
she
Well,
is
and
8 years old.
I'm sure you, I mean, if I get crazy comments, I can only imagine the kinds of comments you get. Like, oh, he needs to keep those dogs inside, or he
Oh
needs
yeah,
to do this with his chickens. And,
all the time.
like, it's got to be unfreaking real in your
It
comment
is.
section.
It really is. And you know what? I've learned that your blocked words are your friend.
Yes. Oh, you put the keywords in. Yeah, mine are like, mine are Usually mine are like native plant people come at me all the time. And,
Really?
native Texas plants people
That's
like who only plant native
native
plants,
stuff.
they come after me hardcore, dude. They come at, I mean,
Oh man.
I even tried to like to appease them by doing a native plant video, and they still came after me. And I was like, you know what? You give an inch, they take a mile, so no more,
No more
no
native.
more, no more, man.
I can see that. I
Yeah,
really can see that. I get it all the time. I think my block word list or my keyword list is probably about 145 words now. But
oh
I
yeah.
also but it's big too because I pick up scammer keywords a lot too.
Yes, yes.
Like on
Like, hey,
will you
chat and stuff like that. And
will you
yeah,
be my friend? Will you accept my friend request? So I got all those. Or won or winner or investment. And
yeah.
I picked up on
Crypto.
yes. And so my spam, my because if you look, man, they're terrible. But I really got a pretty good handle on spammers on all my stuff now.
Yeah.
I really do.
I
Because my audience is older and I can see them falling for it. Somebody's got my
yeah.
logo and got my name and saying you've won something, please click here. So
Yep.
yeah, I can see it happening.
No, it's definitely so easy to take advantage of people.
So easy.
And it sucks because like, a lot like I know there's sometimes where I shouldn't comment, I shouldn't reply, I shouldn't
Oh yeah.
interact. But you want to engage with certain people. It's just finding that line you got to draw. Like, oh, I'm not going to engage with that. I'm not going to,
Yep.
it's rough, man.
It is
Uh,
rough. And you do have to pick your battles. And you know what? 90, if you have one on there that really just you can't stand it, you have to, they just bash you. They said something about your wife or your daughter or the way you're raising your animals and you're unethical and this, that, and knowing that you're doing everything you can possibly do. And it just, they catch you at the wrong time. You had a
mhm.
bad day. And then you're like, you know what? I'm just going to just let them have it. 99.9% of the time, they never go back and check it.
No.
You'll sit there all day looking to see if they respond back, and they never respond back
Yeah.
because they say what they're going to do to you, and they move on to the next person, and then go over there and do the same thing to them, and then because they're never happy,
No, you're never gonna make them happy.
and
No.
you're never gonna make them happy.
I was gonna ask you too. So we talked about peaches, and
Yeah.
y'all have a ton of birds. Y'all got chickens, you got
Oh gosh. Yeah.
peacocks.
Yes.
I didn't know peacock. So the
Yes.
peacock is the male, the peahen is the
Yeah.
female, and then the little babies are the pea
Hey,
chicks.
chicks.
I did not know that, and I didn't know they were aggressive. Like that they can get aggressive, like with Tom.
Oh yeah. Them and Scott and Thomas fight, and we call them all peacocks, and I call mine cows too. And you're talking about your native plant people. Oh, I
Oh, bird
make
people are probably crazy.
I make the peacock enthusiasts so angry. I make the cattle people so mad that I call my steer Moody a cow.
Yeah,
Here in Alabama, well, they're all cows.
yeah.
They're all cows. And I got a cattle farm across the street from me. He's probably got 300 head of cow over there. He calls them all cows.
Yeah.
They're all cows.
Well,
But
it's
there's a line somewhere in the United States where that doesn't happen anymore,
yeah.
and they'll come after you.
I get a lot of crap for calling my soil dirt. Like, hey, I got dirt,
I've gotten
and
in
people
trouble for saying that too.
and
Yeah.
people will say it's soil. I'm like, man, once I buy it and it's in my car, I can call it oatmeal if I want. It's mine, and I'm gonna call it whatever the hell I want.
Yeah, you
It's
you're right. And the same with peacocks. They're
yeah,
all peacocks.
yeah,
They're all
yeah,
peacocks.
exactly. I
But
mean,
I do get in trouble for saying peacock all the time. I don't care anymore. But that's
and no, I mean
that's
at
the
the
peahen. Yeah.
there's no such thing as bad. What do you call it?
Yeah, you're right. I see what you're
Yeah,
saying. Yeah.
yeah. Whatever. As long as it's buzzing, who
As
cares,
long as
right?
it's buzzing, who
Yeah,
cares?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and y'all got in. I actually saw y'all's pigeons. Uh,
Yes.
the what are they called again with the crowns?
That's the Victorian crown pigeon.
I actually saw those at Moody Gardens down here in Galveston. I saw a bunch of them in person, and they're so used to people. They walk
Oh yeah.
around. They're like,
Yeah.
"Well, I did not realize how freaking big those
They're
pigeons are.
huge.
They are huge. They're like bigger
Yeah.
than seagulls. Like they're
They're like this.
huge."
They're literally like the size of the female turkey.
Yeah, they're bigger than chickens. They're
Oh yeah, they're
huge.
they're big. They're big. They're
Wow.
the biggest peak. They're the biggest pigeon in the world, and they're pretty rare because they only lay one egg a year.
Really?
Yeah, and it's a big deal. Like that zoo or wherever you saw it, they make a big deal about it because it's just
Yeah.
one egg. And we're when and ours have built a nest 3 times,
But no
and
egg?
no egg yet. And we've got a camera and we'll just
I
live
s-
stream.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Now,
no egg yet. And we got
wow.
those. This is a crazy story. We got those from a fan out of Texas.
I
Yeah.
heard, because y'all got some other pigeons too, right? Y'all got a bunch. Did you know get a
Oh, we
bunch of
got
birds?
that's my daughter's newest. I say newest obsession. She's been this is going on probably 2 years now, but she's totally obsessed with pigeons. I mean, obsessed with pigeons and doves, and she can get in. Mary Carl is like one of those people that get on to you for calling them peacocks.
Yep. Yes. Well, it's so funny because me and my wife, when we first started talking or watching Cog y'all on YouTube,
Yeah,
my the first thing my wife said is she's like, God, that is such a well behaved little girl, and she is so smart.
she is
And
crazy smart.
I was like, she is so smart. She goes, she was talking to her mom on the phone. And she was like, yeah, they're the sweetest family, and their little girl, she can look at any bird and name it exactly what it is. It's a cross
Exactly what it
between
is.
that, and like it is bizarre. And I was like,
And the
wow,
scientific name and all
yeah,
that. Yeah. I mean, when she was like 4, we would be driving down the road and a bird would fly by and she would say, "See, that's a orange leg, yellow belly, black tipped southeastern woodpecker, and it migrates here from August to June." And I'm like, at 4 years old, where do you even know where does this even come from? Where? And me and Brooke would look at each other like, I have no idea where, because it didn't come from us. We don't. I always tell everybody jokingly that I think she was like a bird expert in her prior life, and she didn't
yeah,
lose any of that memory.
yeah. She was an ornithologist or whatever.
It's crazy. It
Yeah,
is absolutely crazy, and it's never gone away. It's always been like that,
that's
and
cool. That's
and it's like that to this day.
well, and you'll see that like even like me, when I first started out, I did this and I kind of graduated into this, and you kind of evolve your taste on like what you're gardening and what you want to
Right.
grow. To see that she has been steady, she's into birds. She's gotten a little more
Birds.
specific into
Yes,
certain things, but that's really neat. You can tell that she really has a passion for it
it
because
is
she's stuck
crazy.
with it this long.
Yeah, yeah.
And y'all don't force her to do like into
No,
anything.
nothing.
That's what she wants to do.
That's what she wants to do. Pigeons. We were at a chicken show one year, and somebody had I forget what kind of I think it was called a powder pigeon, where they inflate their chest, and it's
Yeah,
huge.
yeah.
And I think that's what they were. And she was like, "Oh, I'll like to have some of those." And then we got those, and then it went to homing pigeons, and she got homing pigeons, and she lets those out every day, and they go out and they fly
So they
around.
actually go out and fly around. Have y'all caged them, took them, and
Yes, yeah, we were
yes.
doing that, and I think the furthest we went was 7 or 8 miles.
Wow,
And
that
then
is
she
so
got
cool.
worried about hawks, and so once she got worried about hawks, she quit doing that. But
Well,
yeah,
I was wondering about that with y'all's new property. So y'all moved from this like the 7 acres
yeah,
out to you're on 40 acres now.
we're on 40 acres now.
So I was wondering what was more dangerous, like with birds, like
We
predatory
had
bird,
way more predators at the other farm versus this farm.
because y'all had like a forest on all sides.
I think so. We
And
see hawks here, but we've only had one incident with a hawk, and that was with a pigeon.
okay.
If we've lost a chicken to a hawk, I don't remember it off the top of my head.
You
But I
have
think
so
it was just,
many, would you know? Oh, I'm
uh,
just kidding.
but it's so open, and I think they don't have a spot where they can just sit and just hunt. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They just kind of have to. They would have to fly around.
right.
So I think that's really helped with hawks. And the area is completely fenced in, and then we got fences within fences.
Yeah.
And so I think that's helped with coyotes and foxes and raccoons and possums and that kind of thing. We
It,
haven't
it
had any issue really.
it probably helps like having the geese and the turkey and the peacocks
The
too.
geese, yes, all those guys, the emu, We have three outside guardian dogs.
Hmm.
The dogs probably help more than anything.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and then you also have that big, platform where they can go underneath,
Yes,
if they
yes,
need to get away
right,
from them as well.
right.
Um, Out of all y'all's birds, I think there was like a time on YouTube where everybody got an emu. It
Yeah,
seemed like there were like three or four channels, and y'all were one of the first to like got an emu.
yes,
I remember seeing the video when y'all wanted to pick Nugget up, and
yeah,
I was like, oh my god! I was like,
yeah.
this thing is so cute. I was like, but what are they gonna do with a giant emu?
Hey,
Like
I was the same way. Mary Carl and Brooke wanted an emu forever, and I was so against it. I was like, no, 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 no. We
yeah.
can't have one. I don't know how this thing probably needs acres. I don't know what we're gonna do. It needs, you read about it, they need a fence that's at least 6 foot tall. And I
Yeah.
was like, no, 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 no.
Well, and at that time, y'all didn't have anything bigger than a goat. Like an emu could like
Oh
kill
yeah.
you. I mean, an
Oh
emu
yeah, 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 yeah,
could
yeah, yeah.
potentially
Oh yeah.
hurt you really bad. Like
Yeah, I don't.
it's
I'm.
terrifying.
I'm sure you've seen Useless Farm and her emu Karen. I mean, she knows how to handle it, but that emu is not playing around.
They're basically velociraptors. I mean, they're
It is exactly what they are.
like that terrifies me.
Exactly.
Their claws. I mean, they ain't
They,
no joke.
they'll come at you and they forward kick. They don't back kick. They forward kick. And
So they kind of
yeah,
jump. They jump out
yeah.
like that at you.
Yes, they're
Wow.
they're gonna kick you forward. Yeah, they could really, 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 really hurt you. So yeah, I was worried about that as well. But
Especially with Mary Carl and everything,
especially with
because
Mary
she's
Carl,
so hands on with everything.
yes, yes,
That emu could just be having one bad day. That's
right,
I was like, oh my god, please don't let this emu hurt Mary Carl. I was like,
yeah.
oh my god.
But Nugget, I don't see Nugget would ever hurt a human in my life. He's such a baby. He's
Yeah.
such a baby. Now he is very possessive of his pasture.
Mhm.
So, and what's crazy is he's got geese in there with him. They all look alike. They're all white geese. But I could put another white goose in there,
Wouldn't want
and
it.
he would know it. He
Really.
would know it. Oh yeah, yeah, he would know it. And so he would chase it. He would try to stomp it. So we have to be really careful about
Wow.
introducing new things to his pasture. And the funny thing about Nugget is Mary Carl and Brooke finally talked me into getting the emu. And so Brooke said I found some in Auburn. And Alabama, there's two schools, Auburn and Alabama.
Right.
Roll Tide and War Eagle. And so she said, I found some in Auburn. And I was like, okay, well, Auburn was like 2 hour drive. We're like, okay, this is cool. And so Brooke paid for it on PayPal, had everything lined up, where we were going to meet her. And then a couple of days prior, we went to put it in GPS. And hang on a second, Holly, quit. Don't do that. And put it in GPS, and it was in Auburn, Georgia, not Auburn, Alabama.
Oh, I didn't know there was two.
Oh, we didn't either. And it's kind of a funny, Alabama fans kind of make fun of Auburn because they're real close to the Georgia line and say that
Hmm.
they're really in Georgia. So it was really funny for me to find out there was really an Auburn, Georgia. There really was an Auburn, Georgia. Because it's like an inside joke with the rivalry there.
Right.
And ended up for like 2 hours to being like 4.5 hours away. And I'm like, oh my
With the
gracious.
baby emu.
And here's what happened with Nuggets. So we committed to buy one emu. So we get there, and Brooke tells them who we are. Eventually tells them who we are. We got a YouTube channel, this, that. And the lady said, "Okay, cool." And I'll bring two emus, and you can kind of pick because she was another. We had to stay in this city, and then she was like another hour away from where this city was that we stayed
Okay.
in at a hotel because it's kind of rural. And she was like, "I'll just meet y'all at your motel. Then you don't have to worry about driving over here." We're like, "That'd be great." So she's like, I'm going to bring you two emus. Like, okay, wonderful. And y'all can just choose which one you want. She shows up with three. She shows up with two emus, and she shows up with this one named Nugget. Well, when Nugget was born, I think it was the first one, and she was on vacation, and her daughter was there, and the daughter took Nugget inside, so Nugget never saw another emu. And Nugget was hand
Mm.
raised in their house. So Nugget never saw an emu. And so she said, basically, long story short, they really didn't need another emu. they were saving Nugget for somebody that was special, a special whoever, and that we hit all the checks, and she wanted to give us Nugget. We didn't have to pay for it. They were $100 a piece.
That's
Believe that.
that's fairly cheap for an
That's
emu. I
really
would.
cheap for emu. And so she was like, I just want y'all to have Nugget. Y'all just have Nugget. And Brooke was like, oh my gracious. We're like, okay. And the other team used, and so I don't know why, but we decided to get all three. But our plan was that we had some friends that we had to pass by on the way. They've been wanting emus forever.
That's what I remember. I remember that part. Yes, of the
And
video.
so to drop them off at their place, and so we couldn't get them on the phone. And so Brooke just took the roll of the dice and gambled that they would want them. And luckily they did, and they took them.
They already had a couple emus, right? Because I remember
They
y'all
had a
show.
ton. No, they didn't
Oh,
have
they
any emu.
didn't. Okay, okay.
They had a big farm, and they were huge fans of our channel. We met them from selling rabbits when we had rabbits on the farm.
Yeah,
And we tried meat rabbits when we were selling stuff to high-end restaurants in a big city.
I remember that. Yeah.
And that's how we met them, because we got out of rabbits. And they came and they wanted to do rabbits, and that's where we met these people from. Funny story about this. This is crazy. So I don't know if you know anything about baseball. I'm not a big baseball fan. I used to be years ago, but
Hmm.
so these people came, and he had this little old red beat up truck, came, extremely nice people. Once they got there, they didn't know who we were until they got there. Then they were fans, and we didn't know it, but they were secret, fans of the channel. When they
Okay.
got there, they were like, "Oh my gracious, this is Cog Hill Farm." And so they bought rabbits from us, blah blah blah. And then we became friends with them, and just became friends. And so one day they invite us to come out to their farm, and it's like, I don't know, like 1,000 acres. It's just huge farm.
Wow.
It used to be owned by the guy that owned AT&T or something, Charter Cable or something like this. And
Oh,
it's in,
it was the Turner. God, I know you're talking about. Yes, yes, yeah.
he had this farm in rural Alabama, almost to Auburn, Alabama. Had a helicopter pad. I mean, it's just this crazy
Yeah.
huge farm. So we pull up there, and these huge gates open up. The huge gates, and it was just so manicured. And he had told us that he just recently retired because his daughter retired him, and his wife retired because his daughter retired him. And their job is they live on that farm and just kind of keep things up, cut grass or whatever. And so we're
Sounds
pulling up,
amazing.
just manicured. So the whole time I'm thinking, plus he tells us his daughter has this place, then she has a place in Mobile. And I'm thinking, what does his daughter do? She must be a brain surgeon. I'm starting to think, what this farm is as beautiful as you can see. Just orchards, just these amazing food plots, this humongous pond, beautiful house, and then their house. I'm like, what in the world do these people do? And so we come out there, and we've been knowing them for a while now, and I never did ask. And so me and him were walking around, and he said, you probably wondering about my daughter, ain't you? And I said, well, now that you mention it, I am. And he said, have you ever heard of Jake Peavy? And I said, yeah, I kind of know who Jake Peavy is. That's my daughter's ex-husband.
Oh, got you. Okay. So,
So that's where it came from.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
they were married forever, and so that's where it all came from. Yeah,
Wow.
Jake Peavy, the two-time Cy Young Award winner, and I don't know how many World Series he's won,
That
and
that
yeah,
that baseball money is different. As that
it
is
is
some
different.
different, there's some different money right there,
It is
man.
different money, yeah. And so that's how we became. I mean, we're still friends with them to this day. And they still got
That's
the two
crazy.
emus. They still got the two emus.
Wow. And have y'all thought about getting, now that y'all got a little more area? Have y'all thought about introducing Nugget to another emu? Like,
We've
oh,
always been told that female emus are way more aggressive than male emus. And so that's
really?
always been on my mind about getting another emu. So, and they're kind of hard to sex unless the only way you can is really DNA sex test them. And there's people that say, oh, you can look at their feather pattern and all. I don't. That's like the people that tell you they can sex a chicken by copper wire, and if it goes,
Yeah,
what I mean.
yeah,
I just don't trust it.
yeah.
And so, DNA sexing is about the only way you do it, and you have to wait till they get to a certain age, and then you may miss that window of taming them. And I
Hmm.
don't know. I don't know. We in up until this point we said no to other emus, because then I don't know how to introduce him because he's so protective of that pasture.
Yeah.
But now we're kind of getting open to it because we have talked to two people locally that own emus,
Hmm.
and they don't agree with the females being aggressive. So I don't know. I don't know.
I,
We'll
I,
see.
I was wondering it because I know you are going to build them a paddock over there by the
Yes.
barn, right? Maybe
Right.
just like babysitting another emu like for a weekend, like just bring another one over and just maybe doing a trial. Put them in like a paddock next to them,
We
just
could do
kind of
that. That's what I would think. Do the paddock next to them and see
yeah,
how it
because I
goes.
mean, once you get them in the paddock together, I
Yeah.
mean, there's really like what would happen? Like, I was wondering when y'all were at the old Cog Hill, I
Yeah.
was like, is there even anything you could do if he just decided, no, I'm out, and just jumped out and was running
Oh,
down the? There's nothing that y'all could do to
and that
stop him.
happened. That happened.
I
I don't know
remember.
what it is, but he jumped out. I
Yeah,
think either he jumped out or the gate got left open. It was shut. And we lived in a neighborhood.
yeah.
It didn't look like it. We lived in a neighborhood. And so, those Facebook pages, you neighborhood watch in
Emu on the
whatever
loose.
county, and people started posting their security cameras footage of a new emu in their backyard in their front yard. And I immediately called Brooke and I was like, he is out. He is out. And so, of course, we're worried, sick. And so I leave work and I get over there and I found him. Luckily, he was at the neighbor. He had gone all throughout the neighborhood,
Right.
but I had gotten into side by side and found him. And he saw me and he don't get
Came
in a
to.
hurry. He just kind of walked gradually and I got him to follow me back over and
Yeah.
got him put up. But and then when we were moving, it happened again. He jumped the fence that day when we were moving, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was the change of us moving stuff around. Maybe the goats were gone. I don't know, but something triggered it, and he did not like it, and he jumped out, and he went up where the school was.
Oh,
And that's a pretty busy road right there. That's
yeah.
a really busy road. There's a lot of houses around there. And there's an emu that lives kind of in that area that's been there forever too. So
Okay.
all the neighbors thought that was that
Was that
emu.
emu?
And so they were trying to get it to go over there and trying to push it over there, trying to push it. So finally, somebody took a picture of him walking beside the highway and said, "Is this Nugget?" And we were like, "Oh my gracious, it is." So a friend of ours that lived over there actually got him to go in their backyard in their chain link fence.
Hmm.
We're so relieved. I jumped off work, headed over there to go get him, and he had jumped out of their fence.
Oh my
And so he
God.
wasn't there. So then I had to find him, and I finally found him in the woods and got him to follow me all the way down. And I think maybe that day or that next day we took him on over to the new farm.
Yeah, when the animal is that big and has the ability to jump fences and stuff,
Yeah,
there's not a whole lot you can do but beside kind of like guide it back. I mean,
that's it.
other than like a tranquilizer gun. I mean, that's the only thing I
Yeah,
could think of.
it's not like I can put a leash on him
Yeah,
because it's that neck is such an important part of him. Yeah,
right.
yeah, I could hurt him or something like that. But luckily, he's so tame, and he followed me back. He would, and every now and then he'd stop and get distracted like squirrel,
Yeah.
and then I'd have to, like, no, 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 come with me, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go.
They kind of have the same temperament of like a rooster, like a chicken, like they can kind of be, a little ornery and they get distracted really
Yeah,
easily.
oh yeah, distracted real easy. Yeah,
I've noticed that y'all's chickens, you're actually every rooster I've ever encountered has been mean as hell, and you
yeah,
can't do nothing with them. And I've seen you. I remember back in the day, my favorite chicken was Morning Star. It was a big old Brahma
yes,
rooster.
yes.
And I loved him. He was the biggest rooster
He's
I've ever
huge.
seen, but he was a sweetheart, right?
Oh
He
yeah, he was
was
really sweet. He was really, really, really sweet. And what we'll do is if we do have an issue, we get a lot of roosters. They're all not going to be sweet. They're going to be
right.
mean ones, and we just rehome the mean ones. Uh, we'll
Okay.
just we'll just we got people that want them and take them, and they got big ears, or they like roosters, or I got a guy that loves roosters, and we'll call him, and he'll come pick them up. So that's what we do with our roosters.
Yeah.
And just keep the sweet ones.
Yeah. No,
Yep.
I've always been surprised with some of my favorites have been like Roomba is one
Yep.
of my favorite. I love Roomba.
Roomba. Yep.
Follows you around.
Yep.
Some more back in the day. You had AC/DC.
Had
Uh,
AC/DC, Rod
yeah,
Stewart.
yeah. Oh my
Yep.
God. The everybody laughs. My friends had gotten some Polish chickens,
Yeah.
and I showed them the Turkins or the
Yes.
naked
Yeah. The
necks.
Naked Necks. Yeah.
I was like, well, if you have Polishes, you should get some naked necks because
Yes.
my buddy has got showgirls, you
Oh
know.
yeah.
And every time I show someone showgirls, they're like, "That's not a real chicken." I'm like, "That is a real
That's a real
chicken.
chicken.
That
But
is it
they're
is."
ugly. They're really ugly. Here's the thing about those. That's actually a silky and a naked neck.
Oh, okay, silky and neck and neck.
Yep.
My bad.
All right.
Yes.
So you got the silky, which is normal, and then you got a naked neck, which is still considered a silky, but it's missing the feathers off its. I mean, I take that back. The showgirl is still a silky, but it's
Okay.
missing the feathers off its neck because they got bred with a naked neck, but it's still in the silky category. And if you look at those, they got that one little booth. All this is bare, and they got a little booth on their chest right here.
Hmm.
And then it comes down. Then you have one called a stripper that don't have that booth on his chest.
I'm making a note of this. I gotta look this one up. I gotta be careful with my Google searches on this.
So for the longest time, I always wanted to make a video that we had gotten strippers on our farm, and
Oh man, people love clickbait. They love that stuff.
oh my gosh. So yeah, yeah, they love clickbait.
Well, and y'all do such a good job of keeping it like so family friendly.
Oh yeah,
I think people of all ages can enjoy y'all's videos, and that's what I like about
absolutely.
it. My nieces and nephews, they were they were big fans of like Blue Gabe and some of
Uh-huh.
those hunt like deer meat for dinner, and I told them I was like, y'all should check out Cog Hill Farm. And they're like, okay, and like they love it now. Like they love
That's
like
awesome.
seeing the chicken, seeing the goat, seeing the pig.
Yes,
Like I always recommend check out Cog Hill, check out Sow the Land, check out all these guys because everybody can enjoy it. Everybody, y'all do a really
absolutely.
good job of appealing
Thank
to
you.
everybody, man. And I guess I'll let you go. We've been on for about an hour. I feel like I could talk to you
Oh
whenever I
yeah,
talk. Whenever I talk to another content creator,
yeah.
it's always like. We could probably keep going for like a couple of hours. Usually, it's like drinking a beer on the back porch. You just
It is. It is,
it.
especially when you find somebody that wants to talk content.
Yes.
It's hard to find anybody that wants to talk about that kind of stuff, and I can
Oh
talk
yeah.
YouTube all day.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, gardening is niche enough, and then you
Yes,
got gardening content is niche.
yes, absolutely.
I will say too, I get a lot of comments about my sprayer routine that I do about once a week, and I
Yeah.
actually got my routine from you.
Oh,
Back
awesome.
you were doing your inline. This was back at the Little Cog Hill. You
Yeah.
were doing, I believe you were doing your inline system, and you were doing neem oil, I think. And
Yes,
then every week you were rotating between like
I
a
rotate.
BT, a spinosad,
It's been a
and
sad
yep,
pyrethrin.
yep.
Hmm.
And you were. I had gotten so much crap from people because they said, don't tell people what you're spraying because you're going to get people on this side and that
Yeah.
side. And after watching your videos, I started doing my sprayer routine like
Yep.
that once a week. And, I was probably one of the first people on like Instagram or TikTok to actually show my buddies who are farming. They refuse to show what they're spraying because they don't want people to freak out or anything like that.
Yes.
I feel like the more open and honest you are, the more people are going to enjoy and trust you. You know, to
You're right. You're
to
absolutely right. And plus all that stuff's organic anyways. I mean
yeah.
that's if you go to organic farm, that's sort of the kind of stuff that they're spraying too. The only thing is just, spray it early or late.
Yep, I do it.
early
I
in the
do
morning or late evening. Yep.
late evening. Yep,
Yep.
absolutely. I guess I saw that you got. I'll go ahead and wrap it up, but I was going to
Yeah.
give you an opportunity. I know you got a meetup coming up in October
We
with.
got we got one September 9th here in Alabama
Okay,
at Petals from the Past, which is my favorite nursery. You're gonna have to come down here one day and
I want
spend
to.
it with Petals from the Past. You're gonna have to.
Yeah,
As a matter of fact, if we do another one of these meetups again, I'm not in charge of it, but I can have some influence on it. I will get them to invite you to
absolutely.
the YouTube meetup if they do this one again. But Petals from the Past is an amazing nursery, just awesome. But we'll be there on September 9th. This one is completely free, it's open to the public. There are, I forget how many YouTube channels are going to be there, but they're kind of in our area. But we'll be there. And
I'll put a link to you. You have a website.
okay,
You
yeah,
have a website in
yep,
the
yep,
description. I'll put
sure,
a link to that.
that
Um,
work.
October, you're going to be with my buddy Field Rose.
Okay, that's in
Yeah,
Vernon, Florida at the
yeah.
Black Barn Blossom
You know
Sunflower Festival.
them guys are nuts, literally.
Oh
Like,
my gosh. I have to look them up then.
oh my God, dude. Based on like what you do, you will
Yeah.
love Field Rose.
Okay.
He's got a twin brother that's his like alternate personality, and
Oh
he's
man.
look him up on TikTok or Instagram. Like,
I will.
his
Is
twin
it
brother.
is it Rose like ROSE or is it
Yeah,
ROW?
Field Rose. Field
Okay.
Rose.
I have
Yeah,
to look that up.
yeah, he is hilarious. His twin brother Randy, and he actually makes music and stuff and uses it on his
Oh
videos and
cool.
stuff too. I think y'all will get along really well, especially if you want to do some peanut video content. Really
Sweet.
nice guy. But yeah,
Sweet.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate you coming on. I'll put links
Sure.
to all your stuff at the bottom.
Awesome.
Um, thanks, and maybe we'll make it back around, and I can have you on again at some point because
Anytime. Just ask me.
every time I talk to someone like you, I could just go on for hours. But I got actually got another podcast I got to film after.